Marcion regarded him as the son of Satan because he hated the Most High and he wanted another book outside of the Holy Scriptures. Do a little reading and research on these people such as Hancock, Tertullian, Eusebius, Origen, and read what they had to say about Marcion. Read their works. Read the greatest historians at that time. But, as I was saying, Marcion came up with the idea of a New Testament. Before the 2nd century, there was no such thing as a New Testament. It had been assumed that the early church already had a collection of writings or canon of the New Testament before the time of Marcion. But this, however, has been denied as false. There was no collection of books called the New Testament before Marcion. The Catholic Church later adopted Marcion's book and added other books in it. And the New Testament you have today is a product of the Catholic Church. Marcion's Bible, on the other hand, only consisted of one gospel and 10 epistles of Paul. That's all. There was no other books in it. The books that we have in it today were later added by the Catholic Church when they had a man named Jerome decide what would be the canon or writings to make up the Christian book. And he is the one that selected certain books to be a part of the Christian canon. And it might also be known these books were selected and not collected. He decided what books to make up the New Testament, and anything he didn't want, he rejected. And that's what we have today. I know many of our people accept the whole New Testament as the word of the Most High, but the early church did not, when they first came up with the idea of the New Testament, it was not ranked beside the Old Testament. The only book that the Jews and the Israelites and the Christians went by was the Old Testament, until Marcion's book came into effect around 140 A.D. Now, I know many of you all would say that I don't believe that. But do your homework. Study. Your book, the New Testament, says study to show yourself approved. And that's what I'm asking you to do. Do your homework. Study. It also says in 2 Timothy that all scriptures is given by the inspiration of Elohim and is profitable for doctrine, reproof, correction, and instruction in righteousness. And I don't disagree with that at all. All scriptures are to be regarded as the words of the Most High, providing the scriptures are holy scriptures. Holy scriptures are the scriptures is when Yah speaks to his prophets. Those are the only holy scriptures we have. If it doesn't say, thus said Yahweh, if it doesn't say the word of Elohim came unto me, If it doesn't say, thus said the Lord, or the word of God came unto me, it is not Holy Scriptures. Yahweh is the only one that has the prerogative to anoint and ordain something as holy. It was he that blessed the seventh day of the week and blessed it and hallowed it and sanctified it and made it holy. It was he that pulled the nation of Israel from amongst all of the families of the earth and blessed them and sanctified them and anointed him as a holy people. It is he that can make one thing holy and another thing unholy. It is he that can make one thing clean and another thing unclean. It is he that can make one thing defiled and another thing hollow. Only Yahweh has that prerogative. And Yahweh does not speak in the New Testament at all. There is not recorded in the New Testament where the creator of the heaven, the earth, the sea, and all that therein is ever said one mumbling word. Now I'm asking for our Christian community to stand up and be accounted for. I know many of you all, since I made that pronouncement last week about the origin of the New Testament, I know you had to study who Marcion was. You had to get some books on him. You had to pull them up on the internet. Come and engage me. See, when you hide behind a lie and accept a lie as a truth, you only fool yourself. Let me show you how Christianity got started and where it is today. It got started by lies, and there were no Christian writings at all before the time of Marcion. He is the founder, and this man collected various books, various writings, and he treated them as he wished. They was his property. He didn't consider himself sinning against the Creator. First of all, he didn't care if he did or not, because he hated the Most High. So he didn't consider it an offense by writing his own book and collecting books he heard were books of Paul. Notice the only books he had was one gospel and 10 epistles of Paul. And anything he wanted to add to the books of Paul, he did because it was his property. And anything he wanted to take from the book of Paul, he did because it was his property. Later on, when the Catholic Church collected their books, they had all the books in the Bible that we have today, but they didn't regard them all as holy. They did not regard the book of Mark as a holy book. They did not regard the book of Luke as a holy book. And they did not regard the most read book in the entire New Testament as holy. They did not regard the book of Acts. Now, why wasn't the book of Acts and the book of Luke not considered apostolic books? Even though none of the books of the New Testament was really holy, why didn't they even rank them in the same status that they did the others? Because they had to admit they had no